Hi, I'm Brian Russell. Welcome back to class. I want to go over with you the final assignments for Module 8. Now note the due date is May 17th. Your work has to be in by May 17th to receive full credit for that by 11:59 p.m. And by the way, you need to have all your late work. If some of you still have late work in, I'm not accepting late work after Saturday, 11:59, May the 18th. So you need to get everything in because I'm going to have the grades in as early as possible this semester. And so there's no late work after the 18th. That's the absolute drop dead line. If you're going to have a problem with that, you need to contact me immediately. Your final paper is due May 17th for full credit. And it has two pieces. And so this is important. I'm going to start with the first piece. Number one, it's a poetic analysis along with the syntax and grammar. That's combined into one piece. There's no page limits for that because it sort of depends on how you lay things out. So you're going to lay out whatever psalm you do their exegetical paper on. You'll lay the lines out. Again, you can do it with the Hebrew lines or English lines, but lay it out in proper format where you can see the parallelism displayed and describe the relationship between each of the poetic lines. Again, go back and review the How to Analyze a Poem video for how to do that, but lay that out clearly. And then the second part, you're going to do a full syntactical, grammatical analysis of whatever psalm you work on. Now, by full, that includes the elements we've been doing the entire semester. All the verbs, including all verb types. And again, I'm going to say this again, you don't just put the parsing. It has to use the categories from Arnold Choi. I've been fairly lenient in trying to give feedback, but if you don't use the categories from Arnold Choi, you're going to score a 0 on the syntactical grammatical analysis. So make sure you know how to use Arnold Choi. Go back and review the videos. Contact me. I've been working with some of you individually to get you up to speed, but make sure that you're using Arnold Choi's categories. And so for verbs, again, that's both the Binyan or stem, that's one label, and then there's a second label for the verb type. So whether it's a perfect, an imperfect, a past narrative, you're going to go to Arnold Choi and find a category that best represents how you see that functioning in the text. You're also going to analyze nouns and prepositional phrases. Again, every preposition is going to have a noun as its object. In that case, you just analyze the noun as part of the prepositional phrase. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to me as soon as possible. The second part of your paper is the actual exegetical paper, and it's going to use the same three elements that we've used for the shorter papers, with the difference being you have about double the space. You can go up to 2,500 words. Again, that word count doesn't count footnotes, but I don't want to read footnotes where you just dump extra arguments, but just your citations don't have to be counted in this. And again, remember what the three parts are. You're going to write, what is the subject? You're going to write a theological synthesis statement about the subject. Call that a theological interpretive synthesis. This will be exactly like it was for Module 7. 2 to 3 sentences that don't, synthesis. Shouldn't try to talk while I'm writing on the board. They're theological interpretation synthesis. This statement doesn't just describe the text as though you're just repeating and summarizing the context. This is a summary of your interpretation of the text. And as such, you want to, when I read that, I should recognize immediately what your interpretive take on this text is going to be. So be substantive, be theologically interpretive, be succinct. It's 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, that's the first part. That's exactly the same as it was for the first paper. The second part is what is said about the subject. This is exactly the same topic. So in other words, this is the longest part of the paper. If in the first paper this was roughly 2 pages or so, you're going to now have, roughly 4 to 5 pages. It's double the length here for this section. This is the exegesis proper. You're going to describe the structure. You're going to answer and deal with key interpretive issues that a close reading of the text demands. You're going to be aware of the meaning of key words. You'll use Hebrew grammar here when it's necessary. You don't need to needlessly dump stuff out of your grammatical analysis down here unless it's exegetically significant and you leverage it to make your paper better. I don't care if there's an imperfect. That doesn't mean anything unless you say, what's the significance of this and why does it matter that you're citing the grammar? So use grammar to strengthen your paper. Don't just needlessly download grammar in here unless you're using it to help you interpret the text. Okay, again, so this is going to be your commentary proper. And then the last section is what is the significance of what is said. And here you're going to work on the theology of the paper. What does this text, what is its function within the Psalter? How does it contribute to an Old Testament theology? How does it contribute to our Christian understanding? What is it teaching the church? So here you can elaborate. This is getting more into the realm of what would application would look like, but in a sense you're trying to look bigger. How does your interpretation of this psalm contribute to a broader theological interpretation of the Psalter as a whole, the Old Testament, and even into Christian theology? So this is what is the significance of what is said. Now, as part of this, and I've graded some of you down on your earlier papers, make sure you're using substantive secondary resources. Of course, you can use the commentaries that we used for this class, May's and the New International Commentary in the Old Testament. Those are excellent resources. Now, if you just use class resources, that's not going to score you a high grade. I want to see you do research. So use Asbury Scholar to find scholarly articles, look for additional commentaries, and make sure you're discerning between what is scholarly and what isn't. I will grade down if you're using things that don't have any business in a seminary paper. And I've said this before, like Matthew Henry, God bless him, probably a fantastic pastor, probably wish he was my pastor today, but his work is really old. It's very devotional, and he didn't have access to the kind of resources that we have today to take a real deep dive into the text itself. So do not use his commentary or anything like it. Use modern commentaries. Default to ones that are written after 1950. And again, if you have any question on the quality of the source, you can check with me. But I would like to see some substantive engagement and make sure that you cite things there. So that's what we're looking for Module 8. This class has done really well this semester. I've gotten lots of notes saying how much you love the laments and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. I just want everybody just to bring it home. I mean, this is your chance to, bam, home run. And if it wasn't clear, you can write on one of the papers that you've done previously for Module 7, so you're just going to make it better, right? So, so you don't want to just, you can take the paper and you can use the existing paper, but you're essentially going to double the size, so you get to actually bore down deeply, bring in more resources, and make the paper even better than it was the first time, because you're going to be able to be more substantive. If you have any problems, let me know. If you're interested in working on a different psalm other than the 5 that we use for Module 7, just run it by me first and we'll work something out. Can't wait to read your work. Keep pushing. We're almost to the finish line. It's been a great term. It's my privilege to serve as your professor. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm Brian Russell, and I'll be your professor for life if you want me to be. Take care.